In this video, I'm doing part 1 on a commentary of a match between Masayuki, Mochizuki, and Steve Sachs from the round of 32 Masters Jackpot of the Las Vegas Open 2022. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and what you'd like to see in future videos, and I'll work on that. So this is the round of 22 in the Super Jackpot 15-point match between Mochi playing the black checkers. They're actually green when you look at them in person, but on the stream they look black. Steve is playing the white checkers at the bottom. Thank you to Bill Riles of Point Backgammon for allowing me to use this video. He has many outstanding videos of matches. I'll put a link in the description, and they're playing on the beautiful Backgammon Galaxy Earth board. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. You will see the board on the main portion of the screen, the names of the players at the top and bottom, along with their pip counted scores at the upper right and lower right. To the upper right and upper left and lower left are the images of the players. There's a player cam. I'm in the middle. The dice are shown there, so I don't have to read them. People like that. And the XG feed is on the left. So Steve opens with a 4-1, splitting his back checkers and bringing a checker down. Now Mochi replies with a double 3. And you see they are using a baffle box. Steve is rolling with his cup through the baffle box, and Mochi just rolling directly onto the board. And 2 up, 2 down, that's the standard default reply with a double 3. 5-3, nothing too constructive, but he'll make a point behind. 6-3 for Mochi, makes the bar point. Steve wants an advanced anchor, and he gets to make one with the 4-3. That's a great roll. He makes the 20-point anchor. Now both players have anchors. 5-3 for Mochi. So Mochi is down, is ahead by 1 pip before the roll. So he can play 2 down, but if he just picks and passes, he can hit and continue, and he'll be up big in the race. And he's looking at that, and the only 3 is there. What is he looking at? 10-7. Continuing is the best. Steve rolls a double 6 from the bar. He dances. Now Mochi, does he have a double yet? No, he doesn't have a double quite yet. He just has a little bit more to do with Steve's anchor. He has that 1 back checker to worry about, and Steve has that anchor. So he rolls 4-1. He makes his 9 points. Now Steve's looking to come in. 3-1. So he comes in, maintains maximum contact by coming in on the 24, brings 1 down, does leave Mochi a direct 6. Now Mochi is looking at possibly cubing, but it's not quite a cube yet. He rolls a 5-2, continues without hitting to the 14 point. Now he's ahead in the race by 26, or 33 now. 5-4. Steve hits with a 9. He was looking for the 2, but he got it the hard way. Sends another checker back for Mochi. Mochi rolls a 3-2. He's forced to come in with the 2, and with the 3, he has 3 reasonable options, continuing to the 20, doing that, which is the best, and 6-3. But this is clearly the best. Double 3 for Steve. So comes in with the first one. So now when you look around the board here, you see Steve has a lot of blots. Mochi has some blots. Mochi has a blot on his 5 point, and he has a big stack on his 6 point and strips 7, 8, and 9. So those are going to be liabilities. He's likely to leave further blots. So when you know there's going to be an upcoming hitting exchange, you want to do your best to have the advantage. One of the things you can do to have the advantage is minimize blots. The other thing is to have a stronger board. Right now, Steve has a 2-to-1 board advantage. He has 2 points in his board to Mochi's 1. Now if he makes the 5 point, he has a 3-to-1 board advantage. And then after that, so those are basically the 3 forced ones. You come in, of course, and then make the 5 point, preparing for the possible hitting exchange. And then he can either go up with 24-21 or consolidate the blot by playing 13-10, safetying. They're both very close, and that's what he does. They're taking a pause. Rory Pascar is the tournament director. He's asking about the use of the baffle box. Rory runs an outstanding tournament in Las Vegas as well as in Chicago, and people that know Rory know that he runs a tight ship. He wants to make sure everyone's doing everything appropriately. So 4-1 for Mochi. This is an interesting one. So he can break his 9 point by playing 9-8, 9-5. That keeps his prime and makes it a 4 prime. Gives Steve's advanced back checker on the 22 point daylight, so he can come out with a 6 like this. See, now Steve's checker on his 22 can come out with a 6. Alternatively, he can cover with the ace and then come down with the 9. With the 4 from the 13 to the 9. That retains the 5 prime, and it works as a phantom 6 prime because Steve's advanced back checker on his 22 point is not at the edge. It does leave a direct shot, but that's duplicated to come up. Good play. 4-1 for Steve. See, now he can't come to the edge of the prime. He has to hit, but he hits twice. So that's still some good, some bad. He's still an underdog, Steve is. Mochi's trying to come in. Double 4. That's a great roll. So the first 2 are forced. Now he can hit on the 3 point, but that just gives up everything. That's his solid 5 prime is his biggest asset. He wants to keep that. So he can continue and anchor on the 17 point. That's going to force Steve to consolidate all his blots. Or he can just hit one. Now, Steve does have a 3 point board to Mochi's 2 point board, so Steve is a favorite in a hitting exchange. But Steve has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blots with 1 in the air here. So, in that sense, Mochi's an advantage. So, when you're looking at a possible hitting exchange, see who has more blots and see who has the stronger board. In addition, Mochi has a very strong asset with that solid 5 prime, despite the fact that he only has a 2 point board. So he can afford to do this and allow Steve to consolidate it. XG likes the other play better. Double 2 for Steve. So that cleans up everything. 1, 2, 12-10, and now he just slots the 4 point. That was a great roll for Steve. However, Mochi still has a double. Mochi is ahead by 5 pips. Steve's looking at this. So Mochi does have a solid 5 prime, which is acting as a 6 prime, like a phantom 6 prime, because Steve's 2 checkers are not at the edge. They need 2 1s and then 6s. But Mochi's going to have to start playing in and breaking his prime, so Steve might have a chance in the race. When you are close in the race, makes it a take. So it turns out to be a small double on XG, but a very relatively comfortable take. But Mochi is a big favorite. Mochi's going to want to just break contact from his checkers from the 17 point if he rolls 4s or better. 5-4, 6-4, 6-5, double 4, 5s or 6s. 2-1, he doesn't. He just slides and unstacks his 6 point, improves his distribution. Double 1, great roll for Steve. So that's 2 of them, and then he can make his board. So that solved a lot of Steve's problems there. Double 4, that's a great roll for Mochi himself because it provides him great racing equity, breaks the contact. That's basically what he wanted. 5-2 for Steve. He's just going to slot his inside point, next point he wants to make. But still, Mochi's a good favorite. Now with the 4-1, there's the 1, and he can either play behind or play 9 to 5. You don't like playing behind. Nice play. Now, Steve needs something good. Double sixes would be good. A single 6 with a 5-1 allows him to make his board. Mochi's trying to just win in the race. 4-1. So he can clear his 9 point, but that'll give Steve a good double 5. So he might just play off the 8 point with 8 to 3. That's what he does. He's up by 12 and 17 after the play. 4-1. So he comes in. There you go. 4-2. Again, he can break his prime, but just plays behind. Looks like all the plays are pretty close. Steve rolls a 5-1, just comes in. Mochi rolls a 6-1. You don't like to have an odd number of checkers on the highest point remaining to clear with an even number on the second highest, such as 3 and 2. That's odd even. Just makes things a little awkward. That's why XG preferred breaking the 8 point. But no big deal. 4-2. Steve saves a 6, slots his next point. Now 6-5. So he can play like that. He can play 8-2-6-1, or he can pre-clear his bar point. So when you play 8-2-6-1, you'll notice that the 6, 7, 8 points are all stripped. So if you roll a number larger than a 4, you don't have a spare to play with it. So like 6-4, 6-5, 5-4, even like 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. You know, it's going to be awkward. But pre-clearing, that solves a lot of the problems, because now he has a spare that he can use to play a 6, a 5, a 4. 6-5. So Steve can do the double falcon play. This is called double falcon. It was named by Michihiro Kageyama, not to be confused with Mochi. They sound alike, but Michi wrote about the double falcon in his book, Back Checker Strategy. That's an outstanding book. But he does not choose the double falcon, just comes out and makes his board. Mochi rolls a double 6, that's forced. He bears off a checker. That's good, gains him a lot in the race. Steve rolls a 5-2, comes in and just gets an additional crossover. 3-1. Okay, so he can bear off 2 checkers, he can clear his 6 points, he can pick and pass. This way he has 4 checkers on his highest point. That's very safe. 5-3 for Steve. Is it time to make a run for it? Looks like the plays are close. If you want to learn about Baron games, I recommend a different book by Michihiro Kageyama called Endgame Technique. That's a great book that talks about bearing in against these deep anchor games. Now it's basically a dice rolling contest. Mochi's a huge favorite to win. This is a 15-point match. I always tell people the goal in a match is not to win as many points as possible like it is in a money game. It's to get to a specified predetermined number of points, in this case 15 points. Therefore the absolute score, which is 0-0 currently, is not as important as the away score. The away score is 15 away, 15 away, because each player needs 15 points to win the match. And it's generally better to be at even away scores. That is more efficient. If you get exactly 15 points, in a 15-point match, you win with perfect efficiency. But if you get 16 points or 17 points, that's called overage. That's more points than you need, and you're basically wasted. So you really want to try to win the match efficiently if you can. So being at a 2-away score is very valuable. A 4-away score is very valuable as well, whereas a 5-away score is not as valuable. If you want to learn about matches, match play, I recommend Nick Blazer's book, Adjusting to Match Play. Kit Woolsey also wrote one called How to Play Tournament Backgammon, and Dirk Sheeman writes about it in The Theory of Backgammon. That's a very technical book. There's a lot of math involved. And I understand Michi is working on a book on the 5-point match. I'm excited to read that book. So anytime you're at an even away score, that's good. In particular, sensitive scores are when your away score is a value of the cube, such as 2-away, 4-away, and 8-away. And if it's a longer match, 16-away. Scores such as 4-away, 2-away are very sensitive. 8-away, 4-away, when both players have away scores that are the value of a cube. 4-away, 4-away. Steve rolls a good double 3, comes out and hits and unstacks. Great roll for Steve. Mochi's going to have trouble with the glued back checkers and the stripped midpoint. Michi calls those glued back checkers when they're anchored on the 24 point in the book Back Checker Strategy. So he plays behind. Now Steve is looking at possibly doubling. It is a small double. So Steve is ahead by 14 pips in the race. Mochi does have those 2 back checkers glued to the 24 point. That's going to make extricating them very difficult, especially with the stripped midpoint. His position is becoming overextended. 5-3. So now he can point on head, which is much better than bringing 2 down, because you don't want that checker on the 5 point. (6-3). So he comes in with the 6, and basically it doesn't matter what he does because it's going to be a pass. It's a small pass here, but Steve's going to double. Steve has a lot of checkers to attack, but he does have a liability in the blot on his 15 point and the blot on his 8 point, but he might use one or either or both on the next play. And Mochi has a deep point in his board, the 2 point, with the gap in on the 3 and the 4. That weakens his position. If his checkers on his 2 point were on his 3 point, on his 4 point, even on his 3 point, that would have been better. He lacks priming value. It's going to be difficult to fill in both 3 and 4 points. So he does pass. And now it's 2-1 in favor of Mochi. 13 away, 14 away. I'm going to do the first part of this match in this video, and then we'll do more in upcoming videos. Steve wins the opening roll in the next game, 6-2. Now Mochi rolls a 5-1. He correctly hits only 1 checker. A lot of people incorrectly hit 2 checkers with 8-7, 6-1 there. It's a very easy thing to learn on the second roll, but people always think 2 on the bar is better by far. So now with a 3-2, he has choices. He can make his 5 points, which makes the better point, or he can make the 4 point, which makes an inferior point, but it does unstack the 6 point and retains a spare checker on his 8 point. So this is purity versus distribution. This is the play that gets you better distribution. Looks like they're close, but in this case, purity is better, even though it leaves you with an awkward stack on the 6 point as well as a stripped 8 point. Double 1, so he makes his 5 point, and 11-9 makes a nice prime. It's not necessary to make that bar point, especially because you have to give up the 8 point, which has some value. So he does, and Mochi hits with the 4-3. 5-3, he comes in and hits back. Good roll for Steve. Now Steve has 10 checkers in the zone, but the one on the 11th point isn't really part of the zone. 6-5, Mochi dances. So now Steve is looking at possibly doubling. So Steve does have 3 checkers back, including 2 of them that are anchored on the 24 point. That becomes a little bit of a liability because it makes it harder to escape, harder to make an advanced anchor. It decreases the outer board coverage for Mochi's outer board. He does decide to roll. He rolls another double 1. Okay, so he's going to come up and there, yeah, just make his prime. 4-2. This is what Bill Roberti calls the Middle Eastern split, 2 up. 6-1 for Steve. Puts 2 in the air. Good play. Mochi wants a 3. No, he rolls a double 6. Now, Steve has a very strong position with a 2-point board, but Mochi has a 2-point board himself. Steve has a solid 4 prime. His 3 point is slotted, so he may make it with a 3 or a 4 or a 5. He doesn't have spares on his midpoint with 3 checkers back. It's going to take him some time to bring those checkers back and attack. So he's going to have to juggle multiple things at the same time. Mochi does have 2 checkers on the bar, which is scary. He's going to have to come in. But the nice thing for Mochi is he has his 5 point, which is good, and he doesn't have any other blots scattered around. If he's able to come in with on the 24 point, or even on the 23 point, or 1 on the 23 and 1 on the 24, they're kind of hidden back. They're not the points that Steve wants to make next, and he's going to have a little time to do that and possibly anchor while Steve has to bring his 3 back checkers around. These ones are very scary. Turns out to be a take. It's hard to find this take. Mochi does have another liability in terms of the stack of 5 checkers on his 6 point. That's not ideal. You never want 5 checkers on 1 point. That's too many. In the opening position, you start with 5 on the 6 point and 5 on the midpoint. Those are 2 of your biggest liabilities, and you really want to unstack those. A lot of times you drop down with 6 to 5 and ace just to unstack the 6 point. The other thing is he lacks a spare on his 8 point, which is another liability. Having the spare on the 8 point gives Mochi the flexibility to be able to use that point, use that checker to make the 4 point or the bar point without breaking the 8 point. The 8 point is actually a rather valuable point that you own in the opening of the game. That's something that was stressed recently in a new book by Francois Tardieu, Backgammon Strategic Concepts. That's an outstanding book. Speaking of new books, Mochi wrote a new book himself recently with Mark Olson and Alec Barr called Backgammon Masterclass. And in one of the chapters, Mochi talks about priming structure versus blitzing structure. So if you look at Steve's structure on his offensive side of the board, White's points they have a prime. There's not much blitzing value. It's a priming structure. Blitzing value would be extra checkers in the zone stacked that are ready to be unstacked and unloaded to attack. This is not a blitzing structure. So those are things that you want to think about. And that's part of the reason why he did that Middle Eastern split to go up in the previous roll. But sometimes it's not always a blitzing structure or a priming structure. You can have either both or neither. So in this case, Steve has a priming structure, while Mochi has more of a blitzing structure. Although he does have some priming value, having the 8, 6, and 5 points, that stack gives him some blitzing value. But because he has 4 checkers on his midpoint, not quite as strong in terms of blitzing. If he were to have 1 checker down from the midpoint to the 8 or the 9 or the 10 or the 5 or the 7, that would help. So Mochi does pass with a lot of deliberation. He does take his time. He wants to make sure he gets every move correct. That's why he's the best player in the world. Steve wins the opening roll, makes the bar point with 6-1, so he does have that awkward 6-1 formation with the stripped 7 and 8 and a big stack on the 6 point. Bill Roberti talks about that in his new series of books, How to Play the Opening in Backgammon. So Steve hits, that's an outstanding book. Just got the 3rd volume and I'm reading that. I'll put a review on it soon. Another 3-1. And he could have unstacked his 6 point. You see that in the XG feed, that turns out to be the best, but he just advances the back checker. Looks like plus reversed it. 4-2, he's able to make the advanced anchor. Now with the 4-2, he can make the 9 point. And that blocks the 4s, but when the opponent has the advanced anchor on the 20 point, having the 11 point blocks 6s, so it makes it harder for him to escape. So that's the better play, and then you play behind. Good play by Mochi. Those are hard to see and hard to learn and hard to find. Now with the 2-1, he can just make his 5 point. It does leave that shot, but that's what you want to do. It's very thematic. When you have these stacks on your 6 point, you really want to unstack it. From the opening position, you really want to make your innerboard points using checkers from your 6 point. At least one of them. Now Mochi has a 5-4 to play. Not a lot of options. He's just going to have to play behind. That's the 4. It makes the 4 point, which is not ideal because it's behind the anchor, but it's the best 4 he has. And after that, playing 6-1 is the only reasonable 5. He can't play off his 24 point because if he plays 24-16, then he doesn't have a 4, and he's going to leave those blots ready to attack. Yep, that's the play. Double 5, good roll by Steve. He's down by 4 pips before, so he's up by 16 after. So when you're ahead of the race, especially that much, you race. That's a good roll. He's able to hit and cover. He's able to do 2 good things. That's something that Phil Simborg always stresses. The word and. When you can do 2 good things, 1 good thing and another good thing, that's always good. So if you have options where you have a play where you can do 1 good thing and you have another play where you can do 2 good things, you need to give that serious consideration. So 5-3, he's going to come in and hit on his bar point. 6-3, so he comes in with the 3 and he's going to hit loose. So this is a hitting exchange, a block hitting contest. Mochi has a stronger board, but Steve has a purer board. 6-3, so 3, and then he's going to make his bar point. Nice little prime there. The hitting ace is duplicated to cover. Mochi rolls a 5-4, so he's going to hit the hard way, escaping a checker. Now Mochi has full outfield control. Steve's going to need something good like a 5 or a 3-2. He does get the 3-2 to hit. Now Mochi's on the bar. Mochi rolls a 4-2 himself, so this one's going to be challenging because he would have liked to hit back in a block hitting contest, but he can't. So he can come in with a 4 and come in with a 2. Sometimes you want to think about what's going to be the other half of your roll. He does have a stronger board, so he's a favorite in a block hitting contest. So he can cover his 11 point like this, and that does block Steve from hitting another checker and losing a lot of ground in the race. Or he can come in and not come to the edge of the prime, but leave Steve 6s, and the 6-2 is duplicated to make the 4 point or hit. See, XG likes making the 11 point like this, despite the fact that you're really coming under the gun. However, because of Steve's relatively awkward spare distribution, he only has a spare on his 6 point and on his 10 point. The other 3 points, the 8 bar and 5, are stripped. Steve does not have that many good combinations to point on head while retaining his prime. He's thinking long and hard about this one. And you want to think about what he's going to play after that. So not just what Steve has. So this way, Mochi will have nice rolls like 6-5, 4-3, and 3-2 to make an outfield point. Aces can anchor, but also aces may be able to hit. So that's what Mochi does. He puts the checkers in the place where they would go after each play and thinks about what are going to be the opponent's next rolls, what are good and what are bad, and then what are my rolls after that. That's basically a 2-ply analysis. You can look at that with the dice distribution feature on XG. XG doesn't do the 2-ply. I do have a video where I made the 2-ply dice distribution, a 2-roll dice distribution. Now Steve is looking to possibly double. Looks like this is a pretty big double. The race is close, but Steve has a lot of good rolls. He's taking a picture. Steve takes a lot of pictures and analyzes them later. So he does roll. He rolls a double 1. Okay, so you can make the 4 point. That gives a nice solid prime. Or you can make the 9 point. That makes the solid prime, but now there's no daylight. Oh, there we go. This is very interesting. So they're close. I would have made 10 to 9 3 times and then 6-5, improving the distribution. XG likes 9 to 8 for the last one, but look at the best roll. The best play is to hit twice, barely ahead on plus plus. That just gives you a double tempo. (6-4) does make a 5 prime as well, and it makes a 3-point board, but the other 5 prime is better because that blocks him in better. That's what he does. Now Mochi rolls a double 1. This is going to be interesting because he can make the 5-point or the 21-point. But either way, he's going to hit with 6-5. So he's looking at making the 5-point, or he's going to hit loose on the 5-point and make the 21 points. So one of the things when you have options is to do two different things, either on different sides of the board or different kinds of things. Try to do the hardest thing first. So this is going to be the hardest thing to do, bring both checkers up to the edge of the prime. However, it does leave that direct 5 shot with 3-2 and double 2. On the other hand, making the 5-point will make a 4-point board, but Mochi's going to have some work to do. He's going to need to roll 1s and 2s, followed by 6s to escape. He does make the 5-point. Now Steve's on the bar looking to come in. Comes in with a 3-1, so comes in with a 3 and just slides 9-8. Mochi wants to do something with the back checkers. Cannot, but he can make the bar point with a 6-4, so he has a solid 5 prime himself. Now Steve, he's looking again. This is a small double on XG, so Steve is behind by 13 pips in the race. One of the things I learned one time from Neil Kazaros is when you're looking at a prime versus prime position, count the race, and whoever's behind is actually a favorite. So he rolls a double 5, so of course he cannot move his back checkers. He's got to play on his side, so he can hit twice, make the point on head twice. That's the best play. Doing this, just he's already at the edge of the prime, and he's going to give him 6s. Now this way, the only way he can hit backwards with a double 4. And if he dances, Steve is in a very strong position. He does dance with a 5-2. Now Steve is looking at the doubling decision. Very strong double, 2 on the bar. Steve needs 6s on the other side to escape. So in that sense, Mochi does have an asset there. So his 5 prime is an asset, but he does have 2 on the bar. So Steve needs 6s to come out. However, if you look on the other side, 6s are no good. That means his rolls are diversified. So he can make his 4-point. That's the point he wants to make next, with 1s, 2s, 4s, and 5s. So look at all those numbers: 5-4, 5-2, 5-1, 4-2, 4-1, 2-1, and then you look at the doubles with double 2s and double 1. That's 14 numbers. Just to make that point, that's a lot of market losers. But also the other half of market losers, the opponent's roll. Mochi has 20 numbers or 16 numbers that dance completely with both checkers. And that's really bad because that's going to give Steve more of the initiative and more time. So that's going to make it a big pass. The other liability that Mochi has is that blot on his midpoint. If Steve comes out with a 6-4 and hits, Mochi's going to lose a lot of gammons. When you look at the winning percentages, Steve's winning 69% of the time, usually in the last roll proposition or position. The 75 point is basically where you should take or drop, or 25%. Now Mochi has more than that, 31%. But look at the gammon differential. Steve wins way more gammons than Mochi. So Mochi does decide to pass. When you look at the gammon differential, Steve wins a lot more gammon, so that needs to be taken into consideration. Additionally, after that, you also want to think about your recube vig. So when you own the cube as Mochi, you're going to have sole access to the cube, so that's going to be worth something. That's something you can actually calculate. No need to go into that right now. Maybe the topic of another video. At this point, we'll stop this part of the commentary and continue with the next part in another video. Right now, Steve took the lead. He's ahead 3-2, so 12 away, 13 away. Thank you everyone for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, what you'd like to see in future videos, and I'll work on that. Some of the things that I've done recently is added the pip count, the scores, the names of the players, the player cams when available, the dice, as well as the XG feeds. So thank you for your feedback. Thank you to Bill Riles and Ace Point Backgammon for allowing me to use this video in the commentary. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel. He has many outstanding videos to watch. You'll really enjoy that. I'll also put a link to the Backgammon Galaxy Earth board. It's a beautiful board. They have many boards. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep rolling your dice.